catch this word. It's your girl Jules. I wanted to share a word of encouragement for anyone who's going through a transitional period. So, for example, like you have a word spoken over you and it just quite hasn't come to fruition yet, and you're kind of getting discouraged, or you're wondering, like, when is this going to happen? So, as we know, that like the Lord's word will not return void. And so sometimes it feels like, oh my gosh, like he spoke this word over me years ago, a few days ago, a few months ago. And it's like, when is it going to come to pass? Not realizing that the promise is so exciting. I love to get a prophetic word. I'm not going to lie. I love it. But don't underestimate the process to get there. And so I wanted to share a little experience that I'm going through right now in hopes that it will encourage you for your new season. So I have definitely been in transition and preparing for new territory, preparing for new things that God has called me into. Thinking like, I'm ready, like, hello, let me prove to you, God, I'm ready to walk into this new territory, right? And I don't know if you guys have done that. I definitely was doing it for this particular word, for a lot of new things in my life. And I was worshiping, and I was in my prayer time, and God showed me a vision of really what's going on. And so that's what I'm gonna share with you. So we always talk about the fruits of the Spirit. And I have been personally asking God, like, surrendering my habits to Him, like, how do I change? How do I become more disciplined? How do I become more this? Or how do I walk into more of the promise that you have for me? And it's been highlighted to me, fruits of the Spirit. Or, like when people say, how do you know if this person is like for you or should be in your life, XYZ? And we'll look at their fruit. And so I'm like, what does that really mean, God? So I know, the fruits of the Spirit, which is in Galatians 5. So the fruits of the Spirit are, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control, right? Okay. So I was like, God, I want to receive self-control. I want to receive patience, kindness, all of the things, right? Well, when you get fruit, like you don't just like get a piece of fruit, okay? Like, yes, you do at the grocery store, and that's all fine and dandy, but there is a period of time, a cultivation period of how that fruit is to become. It starts as a seed. It's planted in the soil. It has to have sunlight. It has to have the proper amount of soil and growth, and it becomes a tree and then branches and etc., right? It doesn't just pop up as a piece of fruit. Well, with that being said, God was showing me, like, yes, I've called you to this land. I've called you to this territory. And me being my impatient self, like, why haven't I arrived there? Well, do you know, honey? He showed me my own orchard. He showed me my own fruit. He said, oh, do you want me to tell you about your own fruit? And I'm like, yeah. Okay. So he showed me my own fruit, all right. He showed me my own orchard. And this is embarrassing to say, but I'm going to say it because I pray that this will help someone else. Okay, so he showed me my orchard and my fruit, and so to speak, I was like at a farmer's market, and I was trying to present my fruit to people and sell it. In this beautiful basket, I presented the fruit, accordingly, looking perfect. But God showed me, like, my fruit that I was trying to sell and show people of the world, it was not very good. I was trying to sell this fruit. I don't know if you've ever seen like a rotten orange or something. The front of the orange looks really great and tasty and orange, but the back of it, let's say it's starting to rot. It's green, it's mildewy, it's like you could slough off the skin. And he showed me, like, in the front, what I was trying to sell was this great, beautiful fruit, and in the back it was rotting. And he showed me, like, to achieve this particular thing, your fruit is not good. Your fruit is not pleasing. Your fruit will not last. And another thing about fruit is, like, I don't know if you've ever had whatever, like, rotting, avocados or bananas or something, or like you have a bowl in your fridge or outside, and like the fruit, it starts rotting and it also corrodes onto the other fruit, right? It's not like the ripe fruit will make the rotten fruit ripe. No, it's the other way around. It's constantly decomposing and it just spreads all over. And so I was like, dang. And so he showed me, like, I was trying to sell or present, to life, to people, whatever those things are, perfectionism or these falsehoods, that I was kind of like half living my life, presenting. I try to present like this perfect self, with people, with other believers, what have you, my motherhood. And it really wasn't good fruit. And so I don't know if you knew this, but in Galatians 5, it talks about fruits of the Spirit. But right before that, guess what? It talks about fruits of the flesh. And it's pretty interesting. The fruits of the flesh, it's, okay. And it's so funny because in the Bible, it literally says, the acts of the flesh are quite obvious: sexual immorality, impurities, debauchery, idolatry, witchcraft, hatred, discord, jealousy, fits of rage, selfishness or selfish ambition, dissensions, factions, envy, drunkenness, orgies, alike. I warn you, as I did before, those who live like this will not inherit the kingdom. I mean, that's a lot. Like, I seriously want to do a lesson that's like, goes like into depth about that. And that's Galatians 5:19. So it's right before the fruits of the Spirit. But God was showing me, like, yeah, girl, like, you are dealing with fruits of the flesh. And he showed me, okay, so furthermore, in this vision, I had this orchard, I had this field of all this fruit and all these trees. And they were like fruits of the flesh that I partnered with, like habits, mindsets, things that I'm still dealing with. And the fruit was not good. And so, in the Bible, when it talks about in Matthew 11, I think it talks about like when God, like when Jesus like cursed the fig tree because it wasn't producing any fruit, and the tree died. That's what I felt like God was doing to me, like honey, like I need to like I'm telling your trees to die. And furthermore, I saw like a fire on my orchard, like, which represents my fruit, my life, what I was doing. A fire, it was a contained fire, and he was just burning down all my trees, burning down everything. And then it was like to nothing. It was just to soil, right? So I was like, dang. So like, basically for me, I've been going through this season of like, every single thing that I put my identity in, my worth in, like who I thought I was, has been dying. Like my career, the way I make money, relationship, marriage, like reevaluating my friendships, reevaluating my habits, reevaluating the way I worship, reevaluating the way I mother, reevaluating the way I talk to people, reevaluating like literally everything, not just spiritual things, like everything, like my habits, how I get up, how I make money, how I do these things, how I exercise, like breaking down and telling God, like, hey, I'm going to give you all my habits. I'm going to give you all my day-to-day stuff, like everything. And he was showing me, oh yeah, you thought you were operating like out of this, but you were operating, out of a wound, out of trauma, out of hatred, out of unforgiveness. And I was like, whew, like I sit here and think like, oh God, let me prove to you I'm ready for this. But like, you can't lie to God. Like, you cannot lie to him. And so he was really, very lovingly, but showing me like, girl, like you have all this fruit that needs to go. All these roots that's gotta go. It didn't just happen overnight to where like I just had all this rotten fruit or some good fruit and some bad fruit. It came from, the branches to the seeds to the roots. It came from trauma. It came from childhood things. It came from things that I spoke out. It came from, sin that therefore like I didn't want to bring God to it. So then I self-protected, and then I thought, okay, I'm not going to bring God into this. So I'm going to do it my way. And this is, this is just one thing of like 100 things that God is like having me work on, but it was showing me like, yeah, I still have called you to this place. I've still called you to this territory, but like, we need to replan it. Like like we got to start over, because I'm not going to call you to this thing and have you in it if you are still operating out of those mindsets, out of those ways, operating out of a place of idolatry where you're just doing it to serve you and not me. I mean, just like, there's so much more in depth that I could say with that, as far as like what I need to change and what God has highlighted to me that I need to surrender to him. But it was just like, wow. So I say that to say this, like, if you are in that place where you're like, I know the promise, I'm going through the process, I'm feeling discouraged, like, God does not waste time, and he's so patient, and he's so loving, and he's so intricate and intentional about like something. If he calls you to a thing, like, he wants it to last. He wants it to be good, and he will wait. He'll, you know, hello Egypt, hello Israel, hello people who, should have gone through something in a few weeks, but went through, years and years and years. Like, he'll chill, and he'll let you go through the wilderness as long as it takes you to go through the wilderness. And if you're like, God, change this, like, he's waiting for you to change. So I thought it was interesting when he was like burning my orchard, because I was like, I want to tell you, like, I looked it up, and it talks about when you, like, contained fires. And it says, intentional fires serve a valuable purpose, because at the end of the growing season, plants will leave a lot of dead matter and roots where the ground does not easily decompose. So fire breaks down the plants, and it releases nutrients into the soil. Fires can also help new seeds plant. Many seeds have a thick outer shell that needs to be broken down in order to germinate. So fires can break the shell and the seeds. And so I thought that was kind of funny, because I was like, oh yeah, like, I might have some certain seeds that I need to, if I want the fruit of the spirit, of self-control, and I'm having a hard time with it, the seed that I plant for that might be so, stubborn that it needs to go through fire in order to be released. I thought that was really interesting. Fires can even help control bugs, ticks, and parasites and worms that might possibly infect the livestock. So it's like, if you are going through a refining season, and the fire, how God showed me, he was just like casting everything on fire. To me, it's like I'm going through this season where anything that like is of him is going to last, and anything that was of me or my flesh, or not going to serve him, it will go in the fire. I thought that was so cool. And it just kind of goes on to say, yeah, like, these prescribed fires will help to manage the grassland, and after a fire, it will create new plant growth, and animals even gravitate toward it. They use fires to manage this, to ensure the health of animals and the land. And so I just thought that was so cool that God, he doesn't want to give us something that we're not ready for. I always think of like, I have a 6-year-old, and she's like, oh, when am I going to drive? I want to drive so much, da, 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 da. And it's like, honey, like, you will drive when you're 16. Like, you are physically too small. You're emotionally too young. And if I gave you the car keys in a car right now, you would not be able to handle it. It would be very dangerous. And so I think that, God is like that with us. Like, he doesn't want us to walk into a promise, walk into a ministry, walk into anything that he's called us to if we're not ready. He doesn't want us to represent him and give other people rotten fruit, So if you're going through this season, I just keep seeing like land and good soil being planted by his hands. And me personally, he's teaching me how to live more in the spirit, how to yield my flesh, how to yield those things, surrender, repent, and just release those things that don't line up with his will over my life. A scripture that goes with that is in Romans. It's Romans 5. Oh no, I'm sorry. It's Romans 8:5. It says, those who live according to the flesh have their minds set on what is of the flesh, but those who live in accordance with the Spirit have their mind set on the spiritual desires. Therefore, the mind is governed by the flesh, or the mind that's governed by the flesh is death, and the mind that's governed by the spirit is life and peace. And so, yeah, it's like, you know, living in the flesh and my fleshly desires, it will lead to death and destruction. But living and yielding unto the ways of the Spirit will give you life in abundance. And I don't like to say, oh, you're a good person, you're a bad person. Like it's literally like this action, this habit, this mindset that I'm partnering with. Is it my flesh who's in control or the Spirit? You know, line it up with the word, line it up with Galatians 5. Am I operating out of fruits of the Spirit or fruits of the flesh? It was so crazy how it's just all right there. Like, it's all right there. It's been there. It's been there in my Bible my whole life. Hello. And I always be fruits of the Spirit and never realized the verse before it is fruits of the flesh. So as you know, if you are walking in a process, if you're wondering like, why am I not out of this wilderness, or what is going on, and you're waiting on God, maybe he's waiting on you. Maybe he's waiting on you to yield to him, or change certain things about your habits, your mindsets, your goals, you know, what are you operating out of? If we're going to represent him, we better be giving people the best fruit possible. The long-lasting fruit that represents him, not rotten fruit. So, as embarrassing as that was to see myself like, dang, like, whoo, I have to start all over again from ground zero and start new soil. It's also very exciting because I know that this time my orchard will be on great, solid, stable ground, which is the Lord's ground. So I bless you. I pray for you. I pray that this word resonates with you, if it is for you. That if this word resonates with your spirit, I bless it. I bless you in the name of Jesus. And I pray for you guys every day. I bless you. And I'll see you next video.